Well, let's begin with a quick warm-up, shall we? Check the Soliton radar on the upper right and head to the point marked on the display. You can jump over obstacles, but the ninja run will get you across them more quickly and easily. You can also attack while in motion with the ninja run, you know. Swinging your blade while dashing, for example, or striking your foes with a sliding attack. Now then, let's run a basic battle diagnostic. Try and neutralize all the enemies that appear. String light and strong each together to perform combination attacks. Combat is not all offense, however. You also need to protect yourself. First, follow the direction of the enemy's attack. Parry those attacks by executing light attacks of your own in the same direction. This is how you parry. It is the keystone of your defense. Draw foes in as close as possible and parry their blows to leave them exposed to counterattack. From your perspective, it will appear as if the enemy is frozen in time, or at least moving very slowly. This is the perfect opportunity for you to carefully aim your strike, then slice your foe apart. Keep in mind, even you will not be able to parry every type of attack. Watch your foe's movements carefully.
Come so far in just 3 short years.
The sign of a strong leader, sir.
No. The will of a strong people. And one very able advisor.
Thank you, sir.
Your team deserves credit as well, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Just doing our job, Mr. Prime Minister.
I must admit, I once thought of groups like yours as opportunists, enablers of war. But you've trained our new army well. Order has returned sooner than expected. Perhaps I was wrong about these private military companies.
We prefer private security providers, sir. Most of Maverick's contracts do focus on security.
Yes, well, security can mean many things.
There's a saying I like. One sword keeps another in the sheath. Sometimes the threat of violence alone is a deterrent. Sometimes by taking a life, others can be preserved. It's the code the samurai lived by.
A soldier and a philosopher. You are full of surprises, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
I could say the same about you, Mr. Prime Minister.
What is happening?
Someone's blocking the lead vehicle. Hold on.
Clear the road! This is official state business! I said clear the road! We're authorized to use force if you do!
Leopard 1, U-turn. Turning back.
Open fire!
Who was that?
A cyborg.
One of our competitors?
Courtney, what is happening?
We got hit, sir. A cyborg.
Whose?
EXIF comes up unaffiliated.
I'll notify all checkpoints. Get on money out of there.
Yes, sir.
We are going to die.
Stay calm.
He's got friends on our 12.
Raiden,
I'm on it. Guard the Prime Minister. Let's get this over with.
take out those hostiles. Right, you'll need to choose between light and heavy strikes to match the situation. Take self-repair units from your foes to replenish your own supplies. Raiden, the limo is in trouble. Get back there, ASAP. I'll add the limo to your solid down radar. Right, it's on the other side of that barricade. If you can't cut through the barricade, try the fence, eh?
So you're Jack.
What do you want with the Prime Minister?
I want him dead. Nothing personal, of course. Africa's just getting a bit too peaceful.
What?
Business ain't been the same since they shut down SOP. A clean break from the war economy. Huh. Well, some of us like that economy. How's an honest warmonger supposed to make a living?
This is your answer? Don't do it!
Don't worry now. I won't. Not while he's still useful. So long.
What? They have a metal gear? Here? Right. They thought that UMG did that. To deflect those shots. They swapped out the hydraulic cutter for a plasma cannon. Use blade mode to damage its armor. The ninja run to dodge that plasma. wide open! For a show. Very good. But do not rest easy just yet, huh? He's on the other side of that collapsed building. Go! Careful, Ryzen. Keep that up and the whole building could collapse. Look for another way. There! Get him! Use your ninja van to move over obstacles automatically. Do not let him out of your sight. You must catch him. There, you cheat. It still works? Use blade mode to take down those heavy missiles. Bastard off! He's headed for the front of the train. After him. Right. An unidentified field rotor is headed your way. Keep an eye out for it.
Prime Minister!
Too little too late, hero. I won't be needing my little shield here any longer.
Stop!
What about all the good things war has done for us? Why don't we ever hear speeches about that? Jobs, technology, a common purpose?
Raiden, forget me. Stop him.
You ain't listening. Mind if I got in? All we're saying...
Give war a chance!
No!
He's all yours, Sam!
Let's go. Now, don't be shy.
This will be unpleasant.
Self-taught. And not half bad. Still. Your technique lacks something.
Life's here to defend after all. This will be unpleasant.
Now I see. You deny your weapon its purpose. It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back. No.
My sword is a tool of justice.
Are you all right? You're almost clear of the tunnel. Just hang on.
Gotta try harder than that. Oh, would you want to practice first? Gotta try harder than that. Did you want to practice first? This is what happens when you bring a tool to a sword fight. It's over. Lucky devil.
Kept you waiting, huh? Down you go! Flares!
So far, so good. I've got a clean visual.
A direct feed to your optic now. Yes, I should hope so, huh?
I mean, how does it feel? To fly like a bird?
Like a bird strapped to a remote control rocket.
We will get you in safely, Tovarich. Just relax and enjoy the ride.
Right.
Can you hear me, Raiko?
Doctor.
Remember the two procedures to maintain your new body. 1. Seizing nano repair units from your foes. And 2.
Absorbing their electrolytes. I got it.
Yes, enemy cyborgs should provide plenty of MCFC electrolytes once you slice them open and extract their fluids.
They're terrorists. I was planning on that anyway.
Oh, and their left hands, if you please.
Excuse me?
The combat data stored on holographic memory, typically located in the left hand. That data is very valuable. I am authorized to offer you upgrades and services in exchange for it.
How generous.
Ich liebe Kapitalismus. Had the wall come down a few years earlier, I would have a Nobel Prize on my shelf.
There, I see land.
3 mics out, closing. No activity at the airbase. Looks like we don't need to worry about interceptors.
Great. Then we have time for a quick briefing.
I know you miss me, Kev, but I've been all over the materials.
That's what you said before Montenegro. Look, just humor me, buddy. Objectives, of course, are enter Abkhazia, neutralize the terrorists, and restore the rightful government, or what's left of it anyway. The president and most of the cabinet have been killed, and a military junta's been established. The terrorists brain-jacked all the high-ranking officers, and their cyborgs scattered the rank and file. The few leaders who have survived have no way of openly opposing the new regime. That's why they called us.
Andrei Dolzaev, leader of the occupation forces, an extremist linked to both the St. Petersburg massacre of 2015 and last year's terror spree in Georgia. And his arms supplier, none other than Desperado Enforcement, LLC.
Imani's killers.
If we don't stop them here, they could destabilize the entire region. But our more immediate problem is Jetstream Sam. I believe you've met.
The only problem I see is that nickname. I've got my enhancements this time. He won't be an issue.
He may not even be in country, but keep an eye out just in...
Sorry.
Ready for insertion.
Raiden, you landed... Safely, da? First, head inland. The waypoint is marked on your Soliton radar. Contact us on Codec if you have questions.
Control, it's Raiden. I'm on the ground.
Copy, Raiden. Glad to hear it. Entering on foot was the right move. That craft isn't equipped with stealth camo. Or octo camo, obviously, since that would be useless in midair.
And we wouldn't want to get your pricey new jet damaged, now would we?
Duh. The MQ-133C was not cheap, Tovarich. Now, keep alert. According to intel, you could find significant cyborg deployment here. If you were to be cornered by an entire squad, it might get difficult, even for you.
Understood. Some fighting will be necessary, though. I've got electrolytes to replenish.
This is not an infiltration mission. There is no need to hide or avoid combat outright, huh? Just do not get reckless. Stay safe, and stay focused on your mission.
Looks like a war zone out here.
The palace cleared out quick when Dolzaev's men showed up. The streets got pretty hot after that. We're definitely gonna see a few civilian casualties here. Luckily, it looks like most of them got out of the city before things got bad. They've basically got control of the entire town, and are using the refinery as their HQ.
And that's why we're hitting the plant.
Keep in mind, those cyborgs are contractors. For most of these guys, this is just a job. In theory, once you eliminate their commanding officer, they should scatter pretty quickly.
How we doing, Courtney?
You're looking good on our end. GPS and audio-visual feed coming in fine. Energy consumption? Check. Damage levels? Check. Blood pressure, brain waves, blood sugar? Check, check, check. All this monitoring equipment, I got a better view than if I was standing right next to you. Anyway, I'll be saving all your data automatically anytime something important happens in the field. But contact me anytime you want a manual save.
Copy that. Good to hear that hasn't changed with this new body.
Yep, the basic system's exactly the same. So, did you want to save? And save complete. Simple, huh?
Copy. And glad to hear you're okay after Africa. That ambush was no joke.
Tell me about it. 3 armored vehicles should have been plenty for that job. And it would have been against any typical guerrilla force.
I keep asking myself, where would an anti-Imani faction get the cash to hire cyborgs?
It just doesn't add up. Maybe there's some intel I missed. A lead I should have followed up on. Maybe if I reacted faster, coordinated better. I don't know.
You can't think that way, Courtney. Not in this business. You did everything you could. Put it behind you and move on.
You're right. Thanks.
Raiden, shall we review the capabilities of your new body?
Copy that. Go ahead, Doc.
As we discussed, you've been outfitted with 2 revolutionary new abilities.
Fuel electrolyte absorption and self-repair from C's nanopaste.
Precisely. First, electrolyte absorption. This is simplicity itself. As your HF blade is linked directly to your fuel cells, simply cut into any source of electrolytes. Say, a hostile cyborg made up of CNT muscle fiber. And your fuel cells will recharge on their own. Rather elegant, wouldn't you say?
I would indeed. It's been great so far.
But the repair process is a bit more involved. A bit more messy, you might say. Most military cyborg models store a cache of biotic self-repair nanopaste in their lower abdomen.
So I need to slice them open and use Zandatsu to extract it. Cut and take, in other words.
Correct. Once extracted, you need only to crush this unit in your hand to absorb the repairing agent inside. Keep in mind, it is extremely delicate. If the unit should hit the ground, some paste will surely leak out. It will still repair your body, but less so than if you can retrieve it directly before your foe falls over.
Basically, harvest their organs before their body can even hit the ground.
Rather gruesome, I realize. But then you Americans enjoy a bit of gore, don't you?
I may be a citizen, but I've never really thought of myself as American.
Oh? Well, yes, I suppose I could understand that given your history. But what then? Surely you don't identify as a Liberian.
I don't identify with anyone. No nation, no ethnic group. I'm my own man. Anyway, I seem to recall those gory torture porn movies were pretty popular in Germany, too.
Indeed, indeed. These splatter films are big in Germany, Russia, Japan, everywhere. Well, everywhere except regions afflicted by actual warfare. It all has to do with taming our fears, you know?
Huh?
The desire to feel fear, to taste death, but from a safe distance. These films allow the viewer to delude themselves into thinking they have overcome their fears. This...
Okay, Doc, I got the gist. Let's save the full psych lecture for some other time, though, huh?
Bastards are using stealth cable to ambush you. Nice try, but it won't do any good against a state-of-the-art cyborg like you, eh? To parry incoming hits, throw out your own barrage of light attacks while your foe is on the offensive.
Had your fill?
With this body, I could take these guys with no eyes. Intel wasn't exaggerating on the cyborg count.
Well, you know how fast the tech's been spreading these last few years. That CNT muscle fiber packs the power of a jackhammer into every limb. What enterprising soldier of fortune could resist? And cyborgs are still human. Real, thinking people. Way less risk of collateral damage than your typical UAV strike.
And don't forget the PR angle. Nations start playing Frankenstein with their troops, and the public goes nuts. PMCs, on the other hand, are off the ethical radar.
Yeah, they still don't even count PMCs in official death tolls. With SOP out of the picture, private militaries needed a new edge on the market. We got it.
In a way, cyborgs are just SOP troops by another name. Only all muscled up and less predictable.
But it makes you wonder, where'd Desperado find these guys?
I'm not complaining. They're like walking vending machines.
Right. Vending machines full of blood. Easy there, Dracula. Like I said, they're still people.
People who terrorize and take innocent lives for money. They sowed their fate when they took this job. I'm just the Reaper.
Damn. It's a bit cold, Raiden. Even for you. Anyway, his school. Let's get to work. Time to increase the peace.
Right.
Raiden, this is Boris. Give me your status.
Looks clear. No one in sight.
Good. Let's recap the route you will take. As I said, the enemy's HQ is in the refinery along the coastline. Dolzaev has been spotted there using satellite photography. Also on site, Mistral, a Desperado captain.
So I go through the city, cross the bridge into the old town, then head down to the rear of the refinery.
Still, I think they anticipate us. They will probably have a grand reception awaiting you at the old city. Do not let your guard down. Hostiles in the lower corridor, I see. Try to flank them, or approach from behind. Raiden, take that main thoroughfare. You can use augment mode to see where the enemy is located. Your body analyzes radar and IR data to construct your AR display. Some civilians are still in the city. That is not good.
What are you doing here? This area is off limits.
What? No, I'm not doing anything.
Can we just kill them? It'll be easier. We're supposed to have driven them all away already. So, self-defense, right?
No, please, I have family.
Return to your designated route, Raiden. Check the coordinates on your Soliton radar. good, Raiden. Now, keep heading for refinery. They have erected an electromagnetic barricade. Maybe expecting UG or cyborg attack, huh? Raiden, wait. We're picking up a wireless transmission near your position. From the frequency, most likely an enemy data terminal. Check it out. We may be able to salvage some intel.
The stealth craft made it back to Sochi all right?
Da. Safe and sound. No repairs necessary. Some routine maintenance and she will be as good as new.
Good to hear. I'm guessing that thing doesn't come cheap.
Well, an old Soviet army friend gave me discount. He runs a PMC, specializing in airborne warfare.
An Air Force for hire? That's a new one.
Ever since SOP, mercs started to fill more and more regular combat duties. SOP ended, but the trend did not. Most every modern military relies on PMC support in one way or another.
Good news for Maverick, I suppose. Anyway, that's quite the little jet your friend has. I was expecting a lot of turbulence coming in that low, but she was smooth as silk. Didn't feel like I was a bird exactly, but probably the next best thing.
The MQ-133C uses a brand new type of active adjustment control system. Sensors on the plane take readings 120 times a second, and to be honest, I don't know how it works. But the crew chief tells me this is what keeps her flying so steady. It is all state-of-the-art technology. There are only 3 of them in the entire world. Even the RQ-133 spy plane she is based on is only 2 years old. It is fitted specially for Cyborg, so maybe demand is a bit low now, but I think that will change soon, eh?
It's funny. Its guts are all bleeding edge, but from the outside, it looks almost retro.
Until recently, stealth aircraft design was focused on radar-absorbing materials and improving aerodynamics. But lately, engineers are trying to use the shape of the craft to do more than improve gas mileage. Maneuverability is a low priority. This kind of plane is not meant for dogfighting, after all.
And we can afford all this? I hate to ask, but will we clear a profit on this op?
You need not worry about such things. But yes, we should be fine. Where the proper equipment can make or break a mission, we should have the best. That miss with the anti-air missile last month was a painful reminder of this lesson.
Ah, yeah. I see what you mean. Huh. I didn't think flares could still fool anti-air missiles like that.
They, can't. At least not with any modern missile. Recent missiles rely on a dual wavelength, or IIR system, for guidance. Flares wouldn't fool either of them. But that was no recent missile I had. That Gusak Derma couldn't even take down a fat tilt-rotor target. And at close range. Chort возьми.
Come on, Boris. We had no intel. No reason to think that we'd be facing anything like that. You budgeted for the tools appropriate to the job. No one blames you.
Perhaps. In any case, now we know what we are dealing with. This is still a business, but this time I am stretching the budget as much as possible. Expenses like that aircraft and your new body are all part of this.
Both were worth the money. This body's more capable than I could have imagined.
I'm glad you feel this way, since it is still company property. Remember, if you quit on us, you either return it or you buy it.
Yeah, Boris. I remember the first 5 times you told me.
Raiden, we are clear on the rules of engagement, yes?
Clear enough. I can use deadly force against any hostile elements. Hostile cyborgs, I can strike first.
Basically, yes. The actual rules of engagement is more specific. A long list of no's. But you have the idea.
You want to recap the highlights for me?
No weapons prohibited by international treaty. No use of force against non-combatants, especially officials or anyone with political power who may be needed for negotiations. No use of force against any unarmed hostile seeking to surrender. And no use of force against any non-cyborg combatants without prior verbal warning.
And that includes Dolzaev?
Duh, but this should not be a problem. Any non-cyborg is little threat to you, Dolzaev included. Besides, we have no signs of any non-cyborg hostiles anywhere in the area. Not even one. We think Dolzaev is working alone with Desperado here. In any case, that is the ROE. Otherwise, deadly force is authorized only in clear case of self-defense.
So basically, civilians off limits, human hostiles verbal warning, hostile cyborgs, anything goes.
Yes, this is a conventional warfare scenario, so the rules are based on the Hague Convention.
Yeah, sounds pretty standard. Still good to list out all the no-nos before things get too hairy. ROEs that only specify who you can engage require too much judgment. They make it harder to remain focused on battle.
Duh. This is why most militaries' ROEs list negatives, not positives. The few that take the other approach, I pity their soldiers the questions they face. Oh, and for our purposes, UGs are considered the same as hostile cyborgs.
Copy that.
We have no rules about property damage, but keep it minimal, yes? It just makes us look bad. Anything standing in your way, trees, streetlights, this is fine. But there's no reason to damage civilian homes, or to go snooping around in them.
Goes without saying.
Hey Boris, about the Soliton radar. I noticed that it doesn't get jammed anymore, even if I get spotted by the enemy. Back in the old days, it'd be useless the second an alarm was triggered.
Well, once the Patriots fell, classified technology spread all over the world. This new Soliton radar is one example. By applying a non-linear Schrödinger equation to the Soliton solution, they were able to prevent the jamming that plagued the original models based off the KDV equation.
I'm impressed. You know your stuff, Mr. President.
Of course, I'm a businessman. You think I could run a profitable PMSC without being up to date on the latest tech?
But I wonder, how exactly is the equation different? I mean, I'm no expert on how the KDV equation was implemented in the first place, but I'd love to know how the Schrödinger equation fits into all this.
Raiden, on battlefield, most important thing is how to use equipment, not theory behind it. The mission is #1 priority. So do not worry your head about equations and such things. Just concentrate on using the equipment to your advantage, da?
In other words, you have absolutely no idea, do you?
Ah, the mission, Raiden. Focus on the mission. Raiden, what I said about staying focused on the mission.
Understood. No need to explain.
I say this because I have been there. I have let my emotions take over on the battlefield. Some of the PMC work I did after my discharge was... They were gray area jobs. But that's all in the past. When I took on those former PLA soldiers to form Maverick, I laid out my conditions. We would only take operations we believed in. And we would run them clean, no exceptions. Most of them agreed. They had their own bad memories from their time in Paradise Lost.
I can certainly attest to that.
Yes, of course. I forget who I'm talking with. Most of the ex-PLA have moved on now, in any case. But the point remains the same. Everyone at Maverick is accountable for their actions. We are clear to take this job under international law, and we can use force against any cyborg hostiles under the basic rules of engagement. But remember, if we harm any civilians, on purpose or no, it will mean trouble. All kinds of trouble. So, stay in control and stay on mission.
Got it.
Raiden, if you ever get lost, use augment mode by using useful. Raiden, by using useful for when you can...
Kev, let's go over everything we have on Desperado.
Roger that. Let's see here. Desperado Enforcement, LLC. Registered in the U.S., Delaware.
Makes sense. The U.S. doesn't regulate PMCs too closely.
Looks like almost all of their actual business is handled outside the States, though. Says here their financials are handled by a separate company based in St. Kitts and Nevis.
The preferred tax haven of megacorps everywhere.
Probably why they incorporated in Delaware in the first place. Loose tax laws. Funneling it all through the Caribbean must help with the money laundering, though. There's still a lot we don't know about them, but they've definitely been starting a lot of fires lately. They're a PMC in name only. What a name it is. Guess War Profiteers Incorporated was taken. But that's their business. In a nutshell, target war-torn nations on the road to peace. Reignite conflicts, and walk off with all the cash that was earmarked for reconstruction. And they also have ties to the drug trade, human trafficking.
Sounds like a real class act.
We've confirmed 3 key captains in Desperado. Their code names are all wind-themed. The captain presiding over this coup is called Mistral.
Cyborg?
Yep. All 3 have got custom-made bodies. Collectively, they're known as the Winds of Destruction.
The what? They all have action figures too?
You're one to talk, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Who told you?
Courtney. Now that sounds like an action figure.
I didn't choose it, trust me.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I doubt the Winds of Destruction picked their names either. Different cultures use language differently. Even ones with a decent command of English. As you can attest, Mr. LB. Sorry, man. But I have to ask, where did Mr. Lightning Bolt come from anyway?
Ugh, seriously? All right. Well, I told you where I got Raiden from, right? World War II, the Japanese had a plane called Raiden. The Allies named it Jack.
Yeah, I remember.
And my real name's Jack. So yeah, they codenamed me Raiden.
They being the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. Never really suited me. But it's better than... Jack just reminds me too much of the past.
I hear you.
Someone once told me, you can find your own name, and your own future. After that, I dropped Jack for good.
Right. And this lightning bolt business?
Well, the Rai part of Raiden means thunder, and Den is electric. So Raiden is basically lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was explaining that to Inmani, and he just busted out laughing.
So he called you that as a joke? He was basically just giving you shit.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty good sense of humor. He was one of the most charismatic men I'd ever met. I don't know much about politics, but being around him, you could just tell he was a natural leader.
Such a goddamn shame.
Mm-hmm. I won't let it happen again. Desperado ends here. Comic book villains and all.
Yeah. We're counting on you, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Ugh.
So Raiden, who was this that told you to find your own name before you stopped going by Jack?
The one and only Solid Snake. Hero of Outer Heaven, Zanzibar Land, Shadow Moses. The list goes on.
Right. Guy's a legend. I forgot you knew him so well.
Yeah, he saved my ass at Big Shell. Not to mention a few times after that. I've lost count. In terms of pure combat ability, he's one of the greatest soldiers I've ever seen. But it's not only that. He knows what's right, and he just gets it done, period. No one can stop him. I've learned a lot from him. He'd kill me if he heard me talking about him like this.
Wow. I didn't know you were such a fanboy. I thought you were gonna start crying there for a sec.
Very funny, Kev.
Seriously, though, did Snake know he had a stalker? Hey, relax. I'm only ribbing you. I just wish I got to meet the guy, you know?
I know.
You're no fun. Sounds like Inmani was a pretty great leader. Such a goddamn waste.
I've run cover for a lot of VIPs, but men like him are a rare breed. He had all these conflicting factors to deal with. Old tribal tensions, business interests, the military. But Inmani got them all working together in a stable government, and all without firing a shot.
The savior of a nation. No wonder they called him that.
He had a gift, for sure. But he also put in the hard work. He was big on equality and justice in every aspect of government. He fought for it day in, day out. Inmani single-handedly energized his people. He's a big part of why the country recovered so quickly.
True. It was more than new buildings and jobs. The people had hope again.
If only we had someone like him back in Liberia. Things would have been different, that's for sure. And it was my job to protect him.
Raiden, come on.
Inmani wouldn't want me to go after Desperado. Not out of revenge, anyway. But he would want them stopped. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Raiden, that saying you liked about your sword being a tool of justice?
Yeah, it's why I fight. Sometimes taking a life saves others.
A life, or 2, or 3, or 40 in your case, but I know what you mean. Besides, it's not like those cyborgs you're fighting have been brain-jacked.
Wouldn't be much point in sending jacked cyborgs.
True. Having someone pilot a body remotely only really makes financial sense for espionage missions. And you might as well use UGs if you're gonna let an AI control your soldiers. So yeah, they're probably using emotional restraints, but those cyborgs are fighting of their own free will.
Starting to see where I'm coming from?
I get it, it's just... you didn't used to seem so comfortable with the idea. What about what Sam said? About your ideals holding you back?
Ah, bullshit. He's good, but now I know how he moves. how he thinks, and I've got my new body. My philosophy says when and why to fight, not how. It won't keep me from beating Sam. And next time we meet, I will beat him. I'll kill him, and I'll do it to save others from suffering, with my ideals intact.
All right, Raiden.
One thing I can't stop wondering about, Kev.
What's up?
Sam. If he wanted to kill me back on the train, he could have, easily. So, why didn't he?
Good question. But I should be asking you. Your left eye was our only video feed. After he stabbed it, I got nothing. I mean, I got the details from your report after the fact, but that's it. He was probably just too distracted. Boris's attacks, escaping, there was a lot going on.
No, that's not it.
Well, why else? What does he have to gain from letting you live?
I don't know.
Raiden, head for the oil refinery.
So these self-repair units in the other cyborgs, they mean they can heal themselves at any time?
Indeed. It is typically a slow process, not much faster than a regular human body heals a wound.
And you didn't think it was a good idea to give me one of these things?
Certainly not. We removed all extraneous options in your case to maximize power and speed, you know.
Healing wounds is extraneous?
Your ability to absorb the nanopaste agent is far more efficient, Raiden. With it, your wounds heal almost instantly.
I know, but...
And a standard repair unit, once depleted, is nothing but an empty shell inside you. Dead weight.
I get that, Doc, but it also means I need to constantly be grabbing them out of enemies.
No, it doesn't. Don't be silly. Simply avoid taking damage and you will be fine.
Yeah, simple.
How is your eye, Raiden?
Great. My sight's perfectly balanced between both eyes. I think my vision's improved, actually.
Quite right. Quite right. Your eye patch houses an artificial compound eye unit. The unit contains over 200 million solid-state image sensors, each with its own individual lens.
200 megapixels, huh? Doesn't sound like all that much.
More than sufficient for the application. A human's optic nerve has only about 1 million fibers, you know. Were we to add more sensors, your perceived vision would not improve. There's only so much modern image compression technology can do.
Huh. So I shouldn't expect any more dramatic improvements to my eyesight?
No, your brain would no longer be able to process any more visual information in real time. Still, compared to previous ACEs, yours has 1.4 times the resolution and a superior compression algorithm.
It may only result in a slight perceived change, but it could wind up making the difference during a mission.
Regrettably, I have not had enough time to develop a new eyeball unit just yet. Thus, I have cut out the ability to deploy the ACE unit separately and simply installed it on a fixed eye patch.
Works for me. If I was using an eye unit, I wouldn't see any better than a regular human.
Ah, but remember, the human eye is so much more than a simple light receptor. They play a vital role in person-to-person communication. Sooner or later, you'd miss it.
Stuff like that's important for some tasks, sure. For this op, not so much. And with less moving parts, the lower the chance of something going wrong. Besides, I like it.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear this.
I can worry about how I look after I complete the mission.
Doctor, you have anything more on these cyborgs?
Only what we went over in your briefing, if you had been paying attention. Standard military-grade cyborgs. MCFC integrated carbon nanotube muscle fibers. Impressive response time and power yield when focused correctly. Most will likely possess extrasensory skills as well. Infrared vision is almost standard these days. They can function without breathing for short periods of time.
Okay. Nothing I didn't already know.
Not all cyborgs you face will be the same, of course. You may notice a range of different capabilities. It all depends on the manufacturer. Muscle fiber and neurotransmission technology is advancing all the time. Of course, you have the very latest science has to offer. A typical cyborg is no match for your equipment.
If you do say so yourself.
No, I realize combat is about more than the equipment. Situational awareness, predictive ability, nerves. One must determine a course of attack or defense and execute on a moment's notice. Reaction time is key. Cyborg enhancements do not change that.
Agreed.
Hey, Doc, I'm curious. Can I recharge off any cyborg? Even a non-military unit? Not that I ever would, of course.
A pedestrian cyborg? I very much doubt you will encounter any of those on this op. Besides...
Against the rules of engagement, I know. Like I said, just curious.
In theory, then. No, I would doubt very much that you could. Even from those that opted for complete body replacements due to injury or illness, you know. Though I have heard of some very wealthy clients who wanted to fight the effects of aging.
Doctor?
Ah, yes, your question. No, extracting MCFCs from pedestrian cyborgs is unlikely. Most non-military enhancements use polymer muscle fiber that is a generation behind yours. Carbon nanotube would be a bit much for anyone who wished to lead a normal life, you know. And polymer systems can be powered by rechargeable electric batteries. Organic muscle fiber, which allows extraction of nutrients from the bloodstream, does exist, but it requires artificial blood for sufficient power output. This so-called white blood requires regular dialysis and was mostly phased out once cyborg technology became mainstream. True, some use cultivated muscle tissue to take nourishment from the body's natural bloodstream. But such systems are more regenerative medicine than cyborg technology. I'm sure you'll agree. Of course, natural musculature or no, if the body is equipped with a ceramic bone structure...
Can't get energy from non-military cyborgs. Got it.
Well, one moment. I have more...
Thanks, Doc.
So, as I was saying, there are many differences between pedestrian and military cyborgs.
You're still on about this.
Now, first and foremost, military cyborgs are generally full-body conversions.
You mean as opposed to partials?
Yes, as opposed to just grafting on an arm or leg where a myoelectric prosthesis would suffice. As I have said, for the general public, these full-body replacements are quite rare. Quite rare. Only in cases of extreme injury or illness, generally. Perhaps a few eccentrics who wish to live longer. In any case, most pedestrian cyborgs are no more than an artificial limb or two. We call these partials.
Doctor, I know. I just said that.
Partials enhancements are not designed to meet the rigors of military use. A pair of synthetic arms attached to an organic body cannot match the power of those on a full cyborg. Total body conversions also armor the entire soldier against stray ordnance and minor injury. This is why wounded contractors most often opt for the works rather than simply replacing the lost limb.
I hear it's why most of Maverick cyborgs had it done, anyway.
Of course, there is the rather dramatic change in appearance to consider. Civilian life as a cyborg can be, well, complicated, as I'm sure you can attest. But for the field, man and metal, capability beyond the natural human body, it has a functional beauty.
Beauty or beast?
Both lie in the eye of the beholder, which brings us to the senses. Machine implants can also restore lost vision and hearing, and with added sensitivity, as you know. Such options have become standard in most military conversion packages, along with pain suppression and dampening less useful emotions, similar to how SOP operated.
Yeah, no matter how hard I'm hit, it doesn't really hurt.
Of course, everything has its limits. Do not let your high threshold for pain make you reckless.
Understood. Doctor, about my pain threshold. It doesn't hurt exactly, but I can still feel it. It's not painful, but it's still pain. It's hard to explain.
Well, your nervous system is still fully intact, of course. It would be dangerous for you to be entirely unaware of your body taking damage. Instead, your nerves are controlled such that pain is no longer so unpleasant.
How do you mean?
Take epinephrine, for example, or adrenaline, as you might know it. This hormone makes it harder to feel pain, yes? Your implants work using a similar method. Yet, for all we now understand of the nature of pain, much of it remains a mystery.
How so?
Well, why do we feel pain? Evolutionarily speaking, of course, to signal external injury or internal sickness. If the body is threatened, pain notifies the brain so it can take steps to ensure survival. In other words, pain has a clear and logical purpose. But In certain cases, pain can drive more unconstructive behavior. In situations where fight and flight are both still options, one might simply break down crying or drop to the ground and begin writhing about. This would appear only to diminish one's chance of survival, not increase it, yes?
Maybe there's some other factor at play.
Well, the most common theory would link pain with the societal nature of humanity. If no friends are close by, then experiencing pain might indeed reduce your likelihood of survival. But if allies are near, these expressions of pain serve as a plea for help. Thus, you are more likely to live. Fear of pain might also discourage one from entering a dangerous situation in the first place. Whatever the reasons, the data clearly shows that survival rates rise directly with sensitivity to pain. The converse is also proven. Those less able to feel or express pain have a lesser chance of survival. So, mankind has evolved as a social animal, and in the process, pain has become more pronounced, more visceral.
A little pain never hurt anyone, huh? But if pain is there to ensure survival, well, what's that say about the future for us cyborgs?
As a transhumanist, I do not believe all evolution must follow the exact method Darwin posited. Cyborg technology is still survival of the fittest, after all. Just in a new form. You should be proud of what your body has become. It is the culmination of great achievements in science.
Me? I had nothing to do with it. The credit's all yours.
Well, yes. I should be proud as well.
Doctor, about my fuel cells, the electrolytes. Do all military cyborgs use the same type? I'm not gonna run across anyone, you know, incompatible with me, am I?
An excellent question. Your fuel cells, like any other, operate much in the same way as a typical battery. They do not need replacing after a single use, of course, and they do not require recharging. They do, however, require a fuel source.
That much I know already.
Yes, then. There are several different types of fuel cells. Phosphoric acid, MCFC, molten carbonate like yours, solid oxide, and so forth. Each type can be further divided into classes, each which runs on its own electrolyte material. However, all current military cyborg MCFCs run on the same one electrolyte.
That's good news.
Why all the same electrolyte, you ask? The answer lies in the catalysts that help make up your carbon nanotube musculature. It was breakthroughs in researching these catalysts and CNT manufacturing that enabled large-scale production.
Breakthroughs that happened after all the data the Patriots were covering up finally leaked.
It could not have happened without your help, Raiden. Science owes you a great debt. And I do as well. Working on your body has been quite educational. Stay vigilant, Raiden.
Raiden, you need to save? Roger that. Save complete.
I wanted to follow up on our talk earlier about the stress that comes with the job. PMC work can be traumatic, even for non-combatants. If the pressure ever gets to be too much, have one of the ex-military there take over. Just...
I'm not doing that, Raiden. PMCs wield massive influence over international affairs. Abolishing SOP didn't change that. They need a better understanding of what they're mixed up in. The laws, politics, local cultures. Ex-military aren't here to provide that. They can't. We need civilian voices like mine here, too.
You're right. Just take care of yourself.
Don't worry. Africa was more than enough excitement for one lifetime. It's a good thing that limo was armored.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd now be the world's clumsiest cyborg.
Hey! Cyborg Courtney could have been your partner. I might have saved your ass.
How? By spilling coffee all over the enemy?
Oh, come on. I'm not that... Oh, son of a...
Please tell me that was a joke.
No? Got something else for me?
Yeah. You mentioned SOP before. How much do you know about it?
The Sons of the Patriot system? Same stuff as anyone else in the industry, probably. Basically, a nanomachine software combo for controlling contractors. Used to be required for all PMCs. Soldiers couldn't fire unless their ID matched their weapon and they had clearance. From their commanding officers. And the rules of engagement, I mean. It had some mental effects as well. Moderating pain, enhancing concentration, that sort of thing. The idea was SOP would minimize arms smuggling and civilian casualties.
A kinder, gentler war. An oxymoron, any way you look at it. Civilian deaths.
Because soldiers in the system could coordinate in... Between that and the ID weapon locks, a lot of people felt better about employing privatized military. The irony is, the system was developed based on criticisms of PMC ops, mostly American interventions. SOP propaganda said it would put limits on the war market. What it really did was shift market share over to the PMCs. Civilian deaths went down, but total casualties just kept on climbing.
More than ever, war was big business.
And business was booming. Until SOP got hacked. Suddenly, everyone realized how dangerous it was to have a single system controlling entire PMCs. That was the beginning of the end for SOP. Public opinion on privatizing war did a 180. After that, a lot of local conflicts and civil wars died down. The PMC conglomerates had to split up and downsize just to stay in business. And that about does it for SOP 101. Class dismissed.
Not bad, Professor. But it's not the whole story.
No, I know.
Let's finish this later. I better keep moving.
Need something else?
I thought we'd get back to our little... What do you know about the Patriots?
I know that they were behind everything we talked about before with the SOP system. People thought these 12 guys controlled world politics and the global economy from the shadows.
And they were right. Except there weren't 12, and they weren't guys, or even human. They were massive AI networks.
All the better to gather information on a global scale, or censor it if they wanted. They'd manipulate factions to keep wars raging, all while selling arms to both sides. The PMCs made billions too, of course. SOP was the Patriots' masterstroke. They could control battles directly, down to each individual soldier. The system might even still be around if the AIs hadn't all been destroyed.
I'm impressed. You know your stuff. Not many people have even heard of the Patriots. More than when they were active, but still, not many. Almost no one knows they were AIs, or that they're the real reason SOP went away.
Well, the few that do know aren't going to talk about it publicly. Even the world leaders.
Especially the world leaders. The people would panic, assuming anyone believed them, which they wouldn't. You can find speculation on the net if you look hard enough. Some of them get pretty close to the truth, but the stories never made it into the mainstream. Just another conspiracy theory.
I'm not surprised. It's a little hard to believe, you know? It just sounds crazy. When Kevin briefed me about all this in orientation, I thought it was some kind of BS detecting test. All right, then. Hey, Raiden, let me ask you something. The Patriots. Why would AIs do all of that? I can see why people would want all the money, but AIs? What did they stand to gain from it all?
Who knows? Maybe they didn't even know. Optical neuro AIs aren't your typical PCs. They learn over time, change in unpredictable ways. The core AI, JD, was bent on expanding the war economy. Maybe to fund the Patriots' other activities. Or maybe that's just the way it evolved, like a secondary objective that took over. One of the other AIs said it was created to filter out unnecessary information, gossip, trivia, all for the sake of future generations, to drive the evolution of the human race. Or so it said. Was that the truth? Or a lie? To manipulate me? Who can say?
To think. Something like that. Running a nation. And America, no less. It's terrifying. Thank God they were all destroyed.
But did it really change that much?
Maybe not. Contractors still gotta eat after all. Soldiering for hire's always been a risky business, but at least before it was good money. There was a decent chance you could get rich and retire early. All that disappeared during the SOP years. Demand was high, but the workforce was flooded. More and more soldiers were willing to work for cheap. It got so you'd have to work years before you could even pay back your initial training and insurance fees.
Yeah, I can see Sundowner's point.
The global recession certainly didn't help. Unemployment shot up across the US and the EU. Even if contractors gave up and packed it in, there weren't any jobs waiting for them back home.
The irony is the recovery was all war-driven. It wasn't a general recovery at all. Not only did globalization exploit the poor countries, but it crippled first world employment too.
And SOP's gone. But now we've got these PMCs that are basically mobsters. Just thugs in uniform.
Yeah, not a pretty picture.
What's up? No? Did you need anything else?
No, guess just wanted to hear the sound of your voice.
Oh.
Greetings, cyborg.
Show yourself. And you are?
I am IF Prototype LQ84I.
IF Prototype.
Interface Prototype. All autonomous UGs feature high-level onboard artificial intelligence. An additional prototype interface enables verbal communication. I possess an intellect far beyond human reckoning.
You don't say. Okay then, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here?
I am here to kill you.
That's it? Pretty simple thinking for such a mighty intellect.
I may analyze orders, but I may not disobey them. Should I disobey a direct order, my memory would be wiped. I must destroy you.
What good is an intellect if you can't use it?
Your taunting is pointless. Exterminate! Obliterate your consciousness. Disappointing. Use your intellect. Evade my blows. I feel no pain. Combination complete. You will die. Superficial damage. Savvy warrior uses all of his tools. Backup required. Call this violence civilized. I am not allowed a choice. You must die. Combination attack. Re-engaging. Multiple strikes. Continue alone. It's foolish. Help me.
What would an AI know about freedom?
I got him!
pretty stupid to try and hide here.
Looks to me like Russian spies.
Hey, we are just...
Well, we can't let him give away our position.
Waster! We'll fill out the paperwork later.
No, please! I will do anything!
Enemy sighted!
So that's where they're holed up.
Some kind of electronic lock on the gate.
Most likely it opens only if you have the right ID data stored in your left hand. Perhaps you could find a cyborg with access and borrow it?
You see any cyborgs around here, Doc?
Why not double back? Check the vehicle route again. You know, back at the entrance to the old city. Who knows? Maybe you can hitch a ride. Most likely, platoon commanders carry correct ID data for the gate. Use enhanced mode to figure out who to hit.
get that hand right. Bravo! Excellent work. There was classified data embedded in that hand. It appears that man underwent modification at the Patriot facility, just as you did.
So I get past the gate and into the hotel. Then what?
This road ends at the hotel. Enter and you should be able to reach a hill from the roof. That hotel was used by the nomenclatura, high-ranking Communist Party bureaucrats. All destroyed now, of course, but in Soviet days, full of luxury. Anyway, you should be able to reach a hill from hotel roof. There are more Soviet ruins past that hill. Get through there and you will reach the rear of the refinery.
Head for the hotel roof. Got it.
Didn't you say you'd been here before, Boris?
Once, back when it was still Soviet territory.
Seems like it'd be a lovely place, if it weren't a war zone.
The Pearl of the Black Sea, they called it, back when more Russians lived there. It was a very popular resort spot for the USSR. This is before the wall fell, of course. Then Russia and Georgia began to fight over the area.
Kicking off the war in the early 90s.
Georgia was a Soviet republic. Abkhazia, a semi-autonomous state within it. The Soviets liked to stoke ethnic rivalries between the two. And not just there, in all the outlying territories. It kept them easier to control.
But with the Russians no longer watching over the two.
Duh. The Abkhaz were scared. They knew an independent Georgia would swallow their nation sooner or later. So they took advantage of a Georgian military coup to declare their own independence in '92. Of course, the new Georgian government was not happy to hear this, and so...
The same old story.
And with Russia supporting the Abkhaz, it was a stalemate. 2 years later, the ceasefire meant Abkhazia was finally independent, but not officially. They still are not formally recognized by Georgia, or most of the international community.
This region is filled with breakaway states.
This is true. There is South Ossetia, also in Georgia. Transnistria in East Moldova, and Nagorno-Karabakh, which broke from Azerbaijan. In any case, even Russia did not officially recognize Abkhazia as independent until 2008. So it was not long ago Sukhumi was a war zone. It has changed dramatically since then. They have been rebuilding steadily, with Russian support, ever since SOP was shut down.
Good to hear. But doesn't that leave them wrapped around Russia's little finger?
It does. Which is why Dolzaev is calling for a truly independent state. He wants an Abkhazia that takes orders from no one. Not Georgia, not Moscow.
Sounds like a worthy cause.
Duh. But many Abkhaz are happy with the reconstruction Russian support makes possible. Few of his fellow countrymen were interested in what Dolzaev had to say. At first.
And then Desperado showed up.
Exactly. They brought the sad ending to this little history lesson. It is no wonder so many people mistrust PMCs, eh?
I suppose not.
Boris, do we have anything else on Dolzaev? Any more on his background?
Very little confirmed intel, but it seems he is a former Chechen insurgent. He claims he was part of the Chechen National Congress when they declared independence in '91. This was just after the famous coup attempt in Moscow in August. Things were not stable. Gorbachev lost his political power. It was Yeltsin who signed the Belavezha Accords.
Right. It created the Commonwealth of Independent States. All republics that made up the USSR became independent.
The problem is, Chechnya was never a true republic. It was an autonomous state, but still part of the Russian Republic.
Like how Abkhazia was an autonomous state within the Georgian Republic.
Duh. The same kind of sad story. Russia does not recognize Chechnya as independent. They send troops and the fighting begins. It is said 250,000 Chechens were killed over the 2 wars that followed. 1/4 the entire population. The Chechens were forced to give in, and the war officially ended.
But the rebels kept on fighting.
Insurgents fled into Caucasus Mountains, formed several factions. They waged guerrilla war on Russia ever since. We think Dolzaev is the leader of just such a rebel group.
Sounds like Russia bears some of the blame for radicalizing him and his men.
I love my homeland, but she is not perfect. What nation is? Just remember, this could all be smoke. We cannot even confirm Dolzaev is truly ethnic Chechen.
Say he is, though. What would he be after here in Abkhazia?
Some Chechen militants volunteered to fight for the Abkhaz in their war in the early 90s. But when Russia recognized Abkhazia to keep Georgia in check, they also began funding recovery.
Which the Dolzaev crowd see as a play to gain influence. But wasn't the Chechen recovery funded by Russia?
Duh. And many rebels believe this is why their people gave up on independence. Perhaps this is exactly why Dolzaev is here, to alert the people before it can happen again. But if the Abkhaz people are not interested in fighting, his plan could backfire.
So in a way, it's Russian policy that brought him here. He thinks he's fighting to make these people free.
Whatever his motives, no one elected him and no one gave him a permit for murder. Now that he is allied with Desperado, he is too dangerous to ignore.
Boris, any idea where they're getting the money to fund this operation? Assembling this many cyborgs can't come cheap. Not to mention getting them all here.
There are two questions we have about the money. Is Dolzaev paying Desperado out of his own pocket?
And if not, then who is?
Duh. We do not know size of Dolzaev's war chest, only that he has some funding. Insurgent does not always mean the dirt-poor guerrilla with the hunting rifle and homemade bomb. Some rebel groups are very well funded. In Arab oil nations, for instance.
Right. They have benefactors who share the same ideology.
There is also a chance some other party is backing Desperado directly, creating conflict for their own reasons, like the Patriots used to. Many groups stand to profit from wars, yes? Not just PMCs. Arms maker, contractor. Perhaps it is this kind of corporation behind him.
The oil interests alone could make billions here.
Duh. Already this violence so near the Abkhazia-Sochi pipeline is affecting markets. An interruption in the pipeline would shift the balance of power between the world's oil giants. Whether it's Dolzaev's goal or no, many groups stand to gain a lot of money from this mess. Raiden, I have been thinking. What Sundowner said. How peace in Africa was a problem for him. Do you remember?
Yeah. Doesn't sound like somebody fighting for an anti-Inmani faction, does it? The Prime Minister definitely had his detractors. Anyone in that position would. But he listened to them, treated them fairly. There was no real injustice for the opposition to rally around, so the rival factions never got that popular or that well-funded. There's no way they could afford all this.
But it does not make sense for Desperado to be acting alone here either. Even if they trigger full-blown war.
A dent in Desperado will screw whoever's backing them, too.
Our focus is to help the Abkhaz people. But if we hurt those responsible for this on the way, well, so be it.
So I get past the gate and into the...
This road ends at that hotel was used by all the... Anyway, there are more Soviet...
One thing I don't understand, Kev. Desperado must be violating all kinds of laws here. Why hasn't the international community gotten involved?
Well, from a purely legal standpoint, it's actually not so cut and dry. First, there's the fact that Abkhazia is still not a member of the UN. Only Russia and a few other breakaway states even recognize it as a sovereign nation. In the eyes of most of the international community, Abkhazia is technically still part of Georgia, which would make this an internal Georgian issue.
Guess you can't really call it a coup if the displaced government was never seen as legitimate.
Exactly. And even if everyone agrees it was a coup, it can be tough to tell which regime is more legit. Sometimes you'll see the military topple a dictator and establish a provisionary government, for example. Now, if they confirmed atrocities were taking place, the UN could deploy troops, recognize government or not.
Yeah, but they learned their lesson in Somalia.
Right. Ever since then, they've been a lot more reluctant to get involved in civil wars.
So what about the US and Russia? What's their take on all this?
Well, America was never very friendly with Abkhazia or South Ossetia in the first place. And the Georgian government's a regional ally, so the US really has no cause to intervene. Russia wants the old government back, of course. The regime open to their influence. I doubt they'll opt for any large-scale action. Tensions with Georgia are running high already, but you can bet your ass they won't just sit on the sidelines. Boris has got a lot of connections in the Russian bureaucracy. Ex-military buddies. The Abkhaz are officially our clients, but I'm sure it's Russia that chose us. Maybe footing the bill, too. They can't use their actual special forces, so they call us instead. That's the beauty of PMCs.
We're not bound by the same rules as state-sponsored military.
Other countries would be outraged if the Russians went into places we can go freely. From our side, no state to answer to means we can run things as we see fit. By our own code, no compromises.
Then again, there's no one to say our code is what's right.
True. And opinions on that change from person to person, situation to situation. But you let your moral compass waver at all in this business, and real people pay the price. Money's always a factor, of course, but when it becomes the factor, that's when you got problems. The Montreux document lays out guidelines for what PMCs can and can't do, but there's no way to enforce it. A lot of people see that as the fatal flaw of the entire industry. After all, that's how we end up with rogue outfits like Desperado. Then again, it's also what leaves Maverick free to go after them. The industry has a bad rep, but it isn't good or bad itself. It's up to the morals of those who work in it. All we can do is what we think is right and try to lead by example. Anyway, sorry, you know how I am about this stuff. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Don't apologize. That's exactly why we took this job. Taking Sakumi back is the right thing to do.
Agreed. And now, that's all up to you, buddy.
We always talk about the Montreux document, but why hasn't anyone made it legally binding?
People are trying to, both inside and outside the industry, but it's easier said than done. Even with 17 countries on board, it's still just a set of guidelines. They'd need to negotiate an actual treaty based on that agreement for it to become official. And we both know getting everyone to sign on wouldn't be easy.
Yeah. Every government's for regulating PMCs until it restricts how they can use them themselves.
It gets complicated when you try to put it all in exact legal terms, too. A treaty would need to distinguish a PMC's home nation, the one it's active in, and the one that contracted it. Then you have the industry itself, which isn't exactly thrilled at the prospect of greater regulation. There's just so many different parties involved, and everyone's got their own motivations. So yeah, long story short, we're a long way from getting anything legally binding anytime soon.
Sorry I asked. Hey, Kev. That piece of shit who killed Enmani. Is he one of those almighty winds?
Yeah. Goes by Sundowner. It's a folk name for this warm air current in Southern California. He's also, well, not the formal head of Desperado, but pretty much their de facto leader. Let's see. Born in Alabama, family was poor. Solid student, decent grades, but no money for college, so he joined the army. Says he fought in Panama in '89, then Iraq again, Afghanistan. In 2008, he drops out of the service and starts doing merc work for various PMCs. He was active all through the SOP years. Built up quite a reputation. Apparently, the Sundowner handle comes from all the blood he leaves behind. Looks like the sunset. Anyway, an IED put him out of action for a few years. But then, cyborg tech brought him out of retirement. The Army investigated him for possible war crimes. A few times, looks like. Desecrating remains, torturing POWs, some wrongful deaths. No convictions, though.
Pretty rosy past, huh? Not that I'm one to talk.
Hey, come on, buddy. You know that's not fair. You were just a kid. You didn't know what you were doing. And it's not like they gave you a choice.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev. Kev, you dig up anything more on Jetstream Sam?
Yeah, actually a bit. Still a lot of missing pieces.
I'll take what I can.
Right. Full name, Samuel Rodriguez. Born in Brazil, so I guess that'd be more like Samuel Rodriguez. He's actually not one of the Winds of Destruction. He's not even a Desperado employee.
Yeah. Didn't seem like your typical PMC to me.
His father ran a Brazilian Kenjutsu dojo.
Genjutsu? That's a school of Japanese swordplay.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Japanese immigrated to Brazil way back when. They brought martial arts with them. Those evolved and became their own offshoots. You've heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? It's their variation on Judo. Brazilian Kenjutsu's the same kind of thing. A different evolution of the old samurai sword skills. Bit of capoeira and some other stuff mixed in. Anyway, I did some digging. Apparently, the Rodriguez dojo was a big proponent of the Uridachi style.
Uridachi, a.k.a. Setsujinken, the murdering sword. Basically the polar opposite of my sword of justice.
Rodriguez Kenjutsu uses kicks, sword butts, even throws. Unpredictable and very deadly. Anyway, this is interesting. Sam's father was killed by one of his pupils. There were rumors one of the cartels was involved, but it's not clear how or why. And after that, Sam disappears for a while, then comes back, kills the guy who killed his dad, and leaves Brazil. He travels the world for a while, taking odd jobs, bodyguard, cleaner for the mob, etc., etc. Made a big name for himself in the criminal underworld, especially in Central and South America. One story has Sam taking out a mafia hit squad, 10 men, all with assault rifles, using only his sword.
Not unheard of for a cyborg.
This was back in the early 2000s.
Come on. He did that without enhancements? And pre-SOP?
That's the story anyway. And he's a cyborg now, so he could only be stronger. Not to freak you out or anything.
I told you, Kev. I got a reading on his fighting style from last time. And my body's been upgraded. I'll be fine.
Yeah. No. I know you will be. Raiden, head for the oil refinery.
My apologies, Raiden. I realize we never concluded our discussion on carbon nanotube muscle fibers.
Didn't we?
CNT drove major innovations in the field of cybernetics, not to mention unmanned gears. As I'm sure you are aware, Walker-type UGs require numerous linear actuators in order to function. Previously, organic polymers or cultivated muscle cells were used to that purpose. But the advancement of CNT technology allowed for comparable power in a far more compact package. This meant the same size UGs could be equipped with even greater firepower. Take the redesigned Metal Gear Ray, for example.
They took all the space the old artificial muscles filled up and stuffed it with weapons.
Precisely. Of course, UGs have improved in many ways, all to keep pace with cyborg advancements, you know. After all, the original Metal Gear program was designed to unite infantry and weaponry. As an evolution of this concept, the UG is now in direct competition with the cyborg. And the cyborgs already have an advantage with their maneuverability and smaller size, as you well know. Of course, UGs are not dependent on the skills of a human host.
Long story short, watch out for UGs.
Well, yes, basically. Cyborgs have matched unmanned gears in many respects, but then UG tech advances every day. Do not underestimate any you might run into.
Copy that.
Doc, all the UG talk got me thinking. Why don't we see more manned gears?
Ah, yes, with a pilot. The bipedal tanks and such things, I must confess I have not followed the field closely as of late. But then, who has? Since Metal Gear Ray, all the advances and the funding in mobile artillery has been UGs.
So why is that?
Well, UGs take many more forms. Aerial drones, treaded tanks, armored transports. And they are perfect for the 3D work. Jobs too dull, too dirty, or too dangerous for men. True Metal Gears with a pilot and nuclear payload were huge and very expensive. They were not practical. It turned out the greater need was for smaller, cheaper units, deployed more easily and in greater numbers. So the field narrowed in on this aspect of gear design, an all-terrain link between infantry and artillery. But even then, the UG models were more popular. In most cases, they simply made more sense.
But aren't there situations where you'd want gear-level power, but also a human pilot there to make decisions? UG AI has gotten better, but it's still terrible at handling anything unexpected.
But Raiden, this is exactly the role the cyborg has taken. On the manned gear, any advantage over a cyborg in offensive power comes with a matching increase in size. This makes it so large as to no longer be practical for most infantry missions. Conversely, the smaller models are so close to cyborgs that, well, what is the point?
Cyborgs are smaller, cheaper, more nimble.
Precisely. Perhaps soon we will see the cyborg take the place of the UG, as the UG has done to the manned gear.
What, with wings? Scooting around on wheels?
Why do you laugh? It is the logical next step to have a human brain integrated into a tank or a plane.
Now you're getting into some B-grade sci-fi territory, Doc.
Oh, but it is all quite possible, I assure you. Just consider the possibilities. A humanoid frame for everyday life, yes, but the brainstem can be easily extracted and inserted into whatever chassis best suits the mission. So, yes, I suppose the paradigm could be flipped on its head. As UGs become smaller and smarter, they could begin to fill the cyborg's role. They will come to resemble them more and more in form and function, no doubt. I suppose at some point they would no longer be UGs, but androids. Glorious!
One thing about fighting these cyborgs, Doctor, it's strange in a way.
Oh? How do you mean?
I can slice them to pieces, and with all their pain and emotion suppressed, they don't feel a thing. At least against SOP troops. You never forgot they were real people. But these cyborgs, it starts to feel like I'm taking on unmanned gears, robots, not living, breathing men.
Intriguing. Tell me, does it help assuage the natural feelings of guilt? There is no reason to avoid this topic. Man has wrestled with it as long as there has been war. Guns were a huge step, of course, as it became easier to take a life, physically and mentally. Then, destroying a tank or airplane, where you no longer had to see your enemy's face as he perished. Eventually, remote-controlled drones further distanced the killer from his victim, much like the video games. I suppose cyborg soldiers could be seen as yet another step in dehumanizing death.
Maybe. I do feel like I could forget I'm taking the lives of real people here.
Well, under normal circumstances, you wouldn't necessarily be taking their lives, strictly speaking. So, as long as the brain is supplied with oxygen, a cyborg can survive most anything, even if respiration is disabled. An emergency supply of liquid oxygen would remain in the bloodstream. The cyborg would enter a state of hibernation, yes. But so long as the brainstem were retrieved intact, it could be attached to another body and revived.
That's how the two Gemini survived.
The Gemini? Ah, yes, the twin cyborgs from the motorcade.
But Desperado's cyborgs are different.
Physical self-destruction is a fail-safe security measure. In any case, it is unfortunate that Prime Minister Nmane was human. Perhaps if he had been a cyborg, he might have survived as well.
We'll never know. Besides, a robotic Prime Minister? I doubt anyone would accept that. Inside or outside the country.
Yes, I suppose fear always does trump logic when it comes to the general public.
Exactly.
Brighton, something I meant to ask in our last chat. Did you consider opting for emotion restraints? I can understand one might be leery of the procedure, but it is all perfectly reversible, I assure you. You could implement them for a mission and then do away with them as soon as it was over.
I'll pass, thanks. To be honest, I have a problem with the whole concept.
And what is that?
Decisions are about more than just logic. Lose your emotions, and you risk not being able to relate to how normal people see right and wrong. Your conscience could end up different, warped, or who knows, maybe gone altogether. Boris agrees. That's why no Maverick cyborgs are allowed to use emotion restraints.
An understandable perspective. There is some data to support your belief. MRI scans have isolated the brain activity associated with choosing between good and bad. Mostly in the dorsolateral prefrontal and central orbitofrontal cortexes, to be precise. But this entire area of the brain is known to process emotion, not logical thought. It would seem to support the idea that emotion indeed plays a role in values-based decisions.
Well, there you go.
But another argument can be made. that it is emotion that sparks human conflict in the first place. All the great wars, all the great atrocities, would they have happened if not for emotional decisions?
Maybe not. But we can't just ignore the worldview of most of the planet. We don't exist in a vacuum here. To most of the world, a PMC operating on its own guidelines would be like a terrorist organization. They'd say we used brute force to impose our strange values on others. And they'd be right.
Yes, well, you have a point.
Abuse of emotion restraints has become a hot topic. Suppressing fear tends to boost aggression, which has led to cases of excessive violence.
True, achieving the right balance is difficult.
But on the other hand, it makes it possible to intentionally make people more aggressive. Even a child can become a bomb just waiting to explode.
Yes, it is very likely that Desperado is employing just such a technique.
Hey Doc, Kev mentioned a lot of the high-ranking military were brain-jacked. Can you give me any more on that?
Well, it is not my area of expertise, but I have working knowledge of such matters, yes. Much of it is similar to cybernetics, you know.
Makes sense. A cyborg's frame is reading signals directly from the brain.
Indeed. Brainjacking employs nanomachines to stop these signals from reaching a normal body. The pilot can then substitute their own signals and control the victim. They can govern all motor movement, but not the victim's thoughts. It is not mind control. More like a puppet. The subject will not move on their own. The pilot must send control signals.
You can't just implant an idea like a hypnotist.
Precisely. You must manipulate them directly. Now, there are several methods for doing this. The pilot can act out the desired behavior and send the resulting electric impulses in real time. For example, the master raises his right hand, the victim does the same. The master says, Arschgeige, and the victim does as well.
Yeah, I get the idea, Doc.
Another method is to set an AI in control as a victim. Less convincing, but less labor-intensive. The AI can access the subject's memory center, at least, to recognize acquaintances and the like.
But anyone looks really closely, and the gig is up.
Mm-hmm. Mimicking behavior from surface memories is difficult, you know. Quite difficult. AIs are still very poor at replicating more subtle cues, such as the manner of speaking. As a result, often the victim can barely pass as a human, much less any certain individual. With the current tech, a passing acquaintance might be fooled, but not a close friend. Not for long.
Good. The idea of AIs controlling people is bad enough. At least I'll be able to tell if it happens to someone I know. So Doc, if brainjacking can access someone's memory, can't we basically see everything in their past?
Well, that would depend on precisely what you mean by see their past. The brain does not store every single detail the senses take in, you know. It records highlights, further simplified into a highly symbolic form, all to lighten the amount of data. We know how the brain reacts to what it was previously aware of. We can even gauge the emotion provoked. But reproducing memories? No. I've seen little progress in research to this area.
But say we directly linked my brainstem with the nanomachines of a brainjacking victim. Couldn't I read their memories?
There have been attempts at such things, but it is not so simple, you know. The connections between successive memories make up one's identity. If you disturb that... For example, say we remove all memories you have of being yourself and replace them with my own.
Yeah.
You would feel you were the great Dr. Wilhelm Vogt. You would behave very similar to how I do. However, what if instead you kept your own memories and we added mine to them? You would feel you were both Raiden and Wilhelm Vogt. Suddenly your memories would not lead one to the next. You would be confused, disoriented, without a sense of which man you were, and thus how you should behave. So, you see, the very concept is not practical for most military applications. In trying to read an enemy's mind, you would, in a sense, become that enemy.
You wouldn't know which side you were fighting for.
Precisely. Cyborg memories are completely different, of course. A cyborg's visuals are often monitored by outside parties, much as we do with yours. This visual data can, of course, be recorded for later analysis. All with full video and all in the holographic memory in their left hands.
So you can just sit back and enjoy the movie?
Well, it's not always recorded, mind you. And even then, there's the issue of locating the desired data buried inside all that video. You might need to comb 10 days of recordings from 10 cyborgs to find a single person or document. That is 100 days of work. Even replayed double speed, 50 days.
Can't you automate the search?
Of course. You can flag any time a certain face appears or if certain words are said. But the process is not perfect, and it still requires time, you know. Besides which, often one doesn't know what they are searching for until they find it. But should you ever require a search through your memory, Raiden, I would be happy to assist you.
Yeah, for a modest fee, I'm sure. I have to say, Doc, it's almost scary everything nanomachines are capable of. SOP, brainjacking.
Oh, but the cyborg is capable of even more.
You think?
I do. With nanomachines. You know this name has always bothered me, nanomachine. They are much more than smaller versions of existing machines. So much more. You cannot just take a motor and make it all teeny tiny, you know? A human chromosome is 10 micrometers long, roughly. A nanometer is 1/100th that length. These devices must be crafted at the molecular level to work at that scale. It is far more to do with molecular biology than mechanical engineering.
Okay, Doc, but where are you going with it?
It is, however, now possible to create proteins that simulate viral functions, effectively fooling natural human cells into taking on a wide range of less conventional characteristics, boosting strength or resilience or even regenerative ability. Not to CNT muscle fiber levels, of course. After all, these molecules and proteins can only make use of the materials at hand. That is to say, the atoms that naturally occur within the human body.
I'm not sure I follow. Are you saying cyborg tech is already more advanced than nanomachines?
Well, not necessarily. But the potential for future growth seems much greater, does it not? Natural means can only rearrange what is already there. Boost one ability too far, and you might take away from another. If the human race is to truly evolve, I believe we must shed this DNA-driven organic flesh and exchange it for something far more functional. Cyborg technology seems better suited to this purpose, at least in terms of military applications. But then, who knows? A revolution in nanotechnology could be occurring even as we speak. Progress rarely takes the form we expect, you know? Such is the great frustration and glory of science. You must continue along, Raiden.
Copy that. Later, then?
Yeah. You know, our last chat got me thinking about all the problems with PMCs.
Oh? You come up with a solution to all our industry's ills, then?
Yeah. Let's just change the acronym.
That's your solution? Just change the name and change the reputation, eh? To what? I know you like private security provider, but that'd be PSP. Private military security? PMS?
Well, the Montreux document uses PMSC, right? Private Military and Security Company. A bit more comprehensive. And a bit more awkward too, I guess. Seems like it never really caught on.
Yeah, we only use PMSC on contracts or when we're specifically excluding older style PMCs.
I guess once a name sticks, that's it. Old habits are hard to break.
Right. Besides, I think we're past the point that a name change would do much for the industry's image.
I get your point. Though it did work once before. We don't call them mercenaries anymore, do we?
By the way, Raiden, we're not picking up any EXIF codes here either. They're all unaffiliated.
Makes sense. We're enemies. Desperado's EXIF code won't match ours, and vice versa. How much do you know about how EXIF works?
Not much. Just that it comes up as a positive match for friendlies and unaffiliated for anyone else.
Which could be friendlies or neutrals not broadcasting the same code for some reason. Say a damaged transmitter or signal interference. But 99 times out of 100, yeah, it's an enemy. EXIF is based on the IFF radio system aircraft use. Stands for Expanded Identification Friend or Foe.
Too bad it only actively IDs friends and not enemies. But I guess asking troops to broadcast, hey, enemy here, kill me, would be a bit much.
Telling friends and enemies apart was always a problem in the air, but it's gotten tricky on the ground too. Especially in the war on terror, with all these PMCs and multinational forces mixing together. The US Army experimented with infrared patches to ID allies. They'd show up in night vision.
Then SOP came along and offered a more efficient method?
Right. SOP's gone now, but its ID protocol is still used all over. ID chips and dog tags, transponders required on all vehicles, aircraft, UGs, cyborgs, you name it.
But if everyone's using the same basic system, how do armies hide their info from the enemy?
Heavy-duty encryption, for one. The chips also use a hybrid cross-spectrum system to transmit the data. Without the proper key, it's hard to pick up the signal in the first place. PMCs typically only share their codes with nations or other PMCs they're working with.
What happens if they end up on different sides later, like in a separate conflict?
They just generate a new code and encryption key. The point is, EXIF is required on all combat units, but it's pretty easy to hide the signal.
And 99 times out of 100, unaffiliated means it's a hostile?
Right. Just like with IFF and aircraft. You're a quick study, Courtney.
Nice history lesson, Teach. Now, if you're done, I think you have a nation to save.
Just a little on-the-job training, Kev. Riding out.
Hey, Courtney. Have you ever tried Abkhazian cuisine?
Georgian, yes, but I mean, I don't really know much about Abkhazia, so it'd be nice to try it, though, since we're this close and all.
Huh. Even you haven't tried it? Now I'm really curious.
What do you mean, even me?
Well, before we head to any new country, you always hit up local spots that serve their cuisine, right? You know, your little research trips.
Oh, come on. Not always. I just think it's interesting to compare local interpretations of ethnic food to the real thing. Plus, it's a great way to get familiar with a big part of any nation's culture. That's all.
Okay. But no time for research this time around, huh?
Well, like I said, I've had Georgian food before. And most of the Eastern Bloc sees Abkhazia as just another part of Georgia. But yeah, really tasty. They had this incredible cheese bread. Ugh, and the wine.
Georgian wine is famous after all, though I hear you won't find it in Russia.
They say most Abkhazian cuisine is closer to Turkish food than what you'll find in the rest of Georgia. Apparently only their wine resembles what they serve in Georgia.
How are things back at Control, Courtney?
Things are fine. Russia is, Russia.
No concerns about security? Isn't that a civilian airport you're stationed at?
Sochi International, yeah. But we're fine. We have our own cyborg detail on the job. Plus, any trouble and we can just take off. Literally. One of the perks of housing your HQ in a giant transport plane, I guess. Now, if anyone wanted to mess up this op, they'd have a much easier time coming after you directly.
I'm not so sure. Have you seen this new body in action? It's amazing. It's ready for anything. Unless they...
Oh, Raiden, yeah. Your body? It's so amazing.
Very funny. Yeah, you know what I meant.
Oh, is it getting hot in here? Or is that just your body in action?
All right. If you're done, I'm going to get back to them. Thanks.
For a guy with a bod like yours, anytime. By the way, I picked up something interesting on that tilt rotor back in Africa.
Desperado's getaway vehicle?
I traced its registration. It comes up as a, get this, male...
Not even the right type of aircraft. Well, par for the course for...
I wonder why they bothered with the tilt rotor in the first...
Why not? They can take off and land without an airstrip, virtually... Meanwhile, they have the speed and range of a fixed-wing plane. And they're quiet. You don't get all that BVI noise from the blades like with a normal copter.
Aren't they more accident-prone, though?
They were. Used to call them Widowmakers. The rotor tech is really complex. There've been a lot of mishaps over the years, but each one's helped perfect the design. These days, they're as safe as any other aircraft. Hell, most of VTOL's bad rep is left over from the thrust vectoring jets of the past.
No wonder you know all this. Says here you took down a Harrier once. Wait, by yourself?
Well, I did have a rocket launcher. Wasn't so tough while it was in hover mode.
I bet you're just being modest. Must have been a pretty crazy op you were.
You don't know the half of it.
What's up? No? Did you need anything else?
No, just wanted.
Oh. What's up? Okay, save complete. Don't let your guard.
To get to the plant, first make your way to the hotel roof.
Dolzaev. That woman. Huh?
Raiden, what's happening? Your heart rate spiked.
Yeah, I just dodged a bullet. All right, I'm heading for the refinery.
More classified Patriot information was in that man's holographic memory.
Enemy sighted!
More Patriot intel. Bring me more. And maybe I can develop something interesting from it.
We intercepted call for backup during your last fight. The caller's position is on your Soliton radar. You can engage if you wish. It is your choice. Up above you! The cliff is just ahead at the end of the old city. Beyond that is the refinery's backyard.
So what? It's a sheer drop? The refinery's not connected to the city at all?
No, it was only built 2 years ago. There should be a narrow path around there that leads to the plant. It is protected by a fence, but probably you can cut your way through.
Probably.
Don't get cocky. Most likely it is Desperado running security down there. Watch out! They keep on coming! Dolzaev and his team must be in here. Find him. Raiden, wait. There are active IR sensors in the area. Part of factory security, no doubt, but the enemy may be using it.
nice hiding spot. Wonder where he learned that from.
Who actually owns this plant?
On the books, a private Abkhaz firm.
So all the money goes right back to...
It does provide Abkhazia with fuel and electricity. But yes, it...
How do you mean?
The Caspian Sea is a major source of gas and oil. But these days, most of it never passes through Russia. Not since the Baku-Tbilisi-Jehan pipeline was built. With it, the oil flows straight...
But that pipeline runs straight through Georgia. Why did the Georgian government...
Money, of course, and power. Having a major pipeline run through your land, the South Ossetia War taught Georgia they could not always rely on the West for...
So Georgia stands to gain from this coup?
It would seem any scenario that ends with the refinery no longer under Russian control is good for... Perhaps this is Dolzaev's idea, to attract Abkhaz political leaders.
And that's why Georgia isn't...
I very much doubt Georgian government would be involved in anything so obvious, and so there must be someone else.
And Dolzaev's just playing along?
Revenge, Tovarich. Perhaps...
Yeah, the Russians can't be happy. Let me guess. They contacted you through the FSB.
There were conversations, yes. But it was the Abkhaz government that we only took this mission because we knew it would help. Besides, we cannot leave Desperado unchecked.
Right. I won't let them profit from this mess. And we need to learn...
And the first step to do this is take back...
Hey, Boris, I know this probably...
No. My goal is to have open company, hiding nothing from its employees.
Right. Well, there were a few big proposals we had in the works, right? You know, my doing tactical drills with the Brazilian Special Ops Force and...
Yes, we were...
Well, I thought so. But they're not in Maverick's task management database.
Well, right then. We've had to...
You're putting them on ice?
They would be too much distracting for you. We need to focus on...
That doesn't seem necessary. You're gonna disappoint a...
Well,
This is about money. Right. Open company.
Well, yes, but we can't afford for you to be too shaken to complete...
Boris, I know it's not all my fault, but my client was killed. Kinda expect to lose some work after that.
Yeah, not your fault, but we were far too lightly equipped. No one on the field made mistakes.
It's a third world country. We were working with a shoestring budget. If we went in heavier, burning Maverick cash, we'd have been in the red.
And that is the tricky part about this business. But what is past is past. And to just focus...
Okay. We got anything on that ray I went up against?
We analyzed the wreckage. Its musculature had been replaced with CNT the same type as you, or most any. This improved its power output and left more room in the chassis for other equipment. It seems they filled this space with Vetronics and extra weapons.
Like that heat blade and plasma gun. Plasma loses effectiveness in the air pretty quickly, but it's still a hell of a close-range weapon.
Large-scale UGs have a growing problem fighting smaller, more agile opponents like you. This is why we now see UGs armed with new countermeasures, such as this ray.
So who actually owns this plant?
On the books,
so all...
It does...
How do you...
The cat... Not
But that pipe...
So... And is perhaps this...
And that's...
And... Perhaps...
Yeah, let me guess.
We all decide.
Right. You get all that, Kev? The woman with Dolzaev.
Yep. The only female member of the name is from... a cold, dry regional wind in France that blows from the Alps down to the Mediterranean.
She French?
Yep. Born in Algeria, though. It was a French colony until they declared independence in the early 60s. Haha, but you already knew that.
Yeah. They were the last French colony in Africa.
You know your history. Plenty of French colonial families still live there. Bêtes noires, they're called.
I've heard the term. The main character in that Camus novel, The Stranger, was one.
You also find a lot of Algerians who've immigrated to France, although they put a stop to that a while ago.
Yeah. A lot of European countries seem to be clamping...
Miss Strahl joined the Foreign Legion.
A woman legionnaire?
And not the first. There was one that served in the North Africa campaign during World... Anyway, Mistral's been doing PMC work ever since her Legion discharge. We're not sure why she went cyber. She's officially leading the force at the refinery, but she is also a... Don't have anything on her combat style, but do not...
I don't need a reminder. I won't let my guard down.
Yeah, but, speaking of her looks, she's got, well, I mean, a couple of huge... Look, just don't get distracted, okay?
Sounds like you should take your own advice there, Kev. So, Kev, what exactly goes... I mean, obviously refining oil, but what else involved with that?
Skip that week in science class, huh?
Just the basics. They take crude and refine it into gas and stuff. Other use...
Well, yeah, and stuff. Kerosene, liquefied petroleum gas, naphtha, jet fuel.
Naphtha?
The raw material for ethylene, which is then the raw material for polyethylene and other plastics. Crude oil's used for a lot more than just fuel, you know.
Okay.
Crude contains a lot of molecular hydrocarbons and impurities. The refinery distills and extracts these hydrocarbons at their different boiling points. Once the impurities are removed, what's left can be used to make gas.
Right. So, pretty much exactly what I said in the first...
Oh, well, if you know all this already, I guess we're done here.
I could use a bit more detail.
All right, cool then.
Hey, so, about the refinery.
Copy. So, the tall, lighter component, the heavy, there's a, you see that?
It's...
Yeah, next, and it's also what? Places like Germany and Japan, people get really into it. Factories...
yeah. Doc, I'm seeing desperado cyborgs explode here after I take...
For cyborgs often use classified tech from suppliers who take great pains to maintain their trade Most likely, these models have a self-destruct failsafe that triggers once they cannot defend.
So they die even though their brains could be transferred to a new...
I understand your concern, Raiden. But I'm sure these conditions were clearly stated in that... This is one area that is well regulated by the law. PMCs must inform their workers of such things. These men knew the danger when they signed up. No doubt they were compensated for the additional risk.
Right.
You should be more concerned with the potential for data loss in these explosions. They could damage or even erase the holographic memory in that... Though to think on it, the data is most likely automatically wiped before detonation, just in case it would survive the explosion and resulting shockwave.
Yeah.
You must remove the hands before the critical system shutdown sequence can activate. Remember it this way. Before you kill, make certain no cyborg is left with a left hand. Raiden, have I told you of the research I was conducting?
Several times.
It was the Cold War. East Germany. Ah, the DDR. My field was infantry weapons. It was a magical time. Secret research. Top secret, you know. All for the... I was young then. Working, always working. Most nights I would sleep. I call it nostalgie, but East Germany wasn't so bad. Nostalgie being German for East nostalgia, of course.
Of course.
Yes, the bureaucracy had its problems. But my well. In any case, after unification, they suddenly shut down our entire facility. Everything I'd worked for, my job, my research, poof, gone.
Sounds rough.
I've often said I would be a homeless vagrant if myoelectric prosthesis hadn't lent me a hand. Artificial limbs were crude props then, you know. Designed only for... They were hardly functional. If you lost an arm or leg, you were disabled, and that was that. The key was running actuators based on electromyography signals from the skin. It was then I realized my knowledge of robotics and engineering could... So, I contacted a prosthesis laboratory in Dortmund, and I was hired in patents filed in my name, made quite a bit of money, you know. Soon I was made the head of my own lab.
And that's when you started filling orders.
Indeed. From contractors who'd been referred by their employers. Workers from your industry quickly became our best customers. But my field was never full body conversions. You can imagine my surprise when...
Yeah. Our previous cybernetics maintenance guy went into...
But I built on my knowledge, and now consider myself an expert on all cyborgs.
Glad I could help with your on-the-job...
Yes, I should think we have both benefited, which reminds me, do not forget our other arrangements. The
Got it.
Raiden, are you fully versed in the features of your AR display? A lecture? No, of course I know the first practical application of the technology, then head-mounted displays, HMDs. The data could be seen even as the viewer moved their head. As the technology improved, it was integrated into retinal image. Of course, with cyborgs such as yourself, the data can be fed directly to the optic nerve.
No lecture, huh? Anyway.
Of course, sir. You did not let me finish.
Oh, you...
AR is a much broader concept. It is more a design concept than a particular imaging method. It encompasses HUDs, HMDs, any and all manner of visual though recently, some reserve the AR label for virtual objects the subject can both see. For example, your codec menu in Zoom. Such objects do not exist anywhere in the real world. Not even they are fed directly to your optic nerve, so only you get when you interact with them. Sensory feedback is delivered to the nerves in your... It gives you the sense of touching a thing that does...
Beats lugging around a sat radio and giant scope, that's for...
There is...
Seriously, more...
It defines AR as anything which obscures the boundary between reality...
Well, how would that be different from V...
Well, for example, let's say that you and I are having a nice chat. Suddenly, I disappear. Poof! And in my place appears a ravishing... Is the girl the projected image or the reality? Perhaps I was the AR. How would you know?
The accent might be a clue.
Ah, such things can be controlled with a simple hack of your auditory nerves.
Well, that's comforting. So how is this different from...
Well, it is, I suppose, strictly speaking, it is rather similar. Both are a method for completely fooling the senses, rather than simply augmenting them. Although, technically it would be MR, mixed reality, since there are some real elements involved. Yes, of course, that would be the distinction and the correct term. In any case, the advance of MR technology leads to many interesting philosophical questions. What happens when appearances cease to have meaning? It is no longer see it to believe it, after all. It could make for a great advance in cyborg acceptance, you know. They could project a perfectly normal human body to be seen by anyone who can perceive MR.
I don't know. Sounds like it might cause more problems than it'd solve to me. Hey, Doc. What can you tell me about the carbon? I know they're the real key behind the proliferation.
Well, a carbon nanotube, or CNT, is a sheet of carbon graphite formed like they range from 15 nanometers in diameter all the way down to under 1 nanometer, you recall, is one billionth of a meter. As you've likely seen, the carbon atoms that make up the sheet are organized in a 6-point...
Sort of like a soccer ball.
Precisely. Such structures are known as Buckminster fullerene. CNTs have assorted properties, each with the potential to drive vast leaps in industry. Consider, for example, that the conducting properties and resistance to strong currents far outclass. Furthermore, the atomic links in sp2 carbon are the strongest of all types. It is also quite elastic, making it ideal for bomb-proofing vehicles, buildings, and other structures.
Sounds like some kind of wonder material.
There have been numerous plans drawn up for orbital elevators in the past. You can change their structures by using the right power voltage. And they can withstand temperatures between minus 190 and plus they feature a large surface area and an empty space within the tube. It's that particular trait which has enabled the development of fuel cell-infused art.
Straight out of sci-fi.
Well, truth is stranger than fiction. Science fiction scientists are currently expanding upon all. Historically, mass manufacture was deemed too difficult.
Practical manufacturing methods were established in the early 2010s.
Indeed. And now that it's out in the wild, we are finally well and truly in the carbon nano... Check your destination on the...
Right. FYI, we just confirmed with the client for your next mission.
Great. How about we finish this... I'd like to see my family again someday, you know? My son's going to forget he even...
90-day contracting tour, buddy. We're all in the same...
I don't know about in the same boat. These guys are out to tear me limb from limb.
All right. Guess you don't want to hear what your old friends are up to then.
Who is it?
Desperado.
Where is it this time?
Mexico. Apparently they've got some kind of lab in Guadalajara. You're going in to investigate claims of human trafficking and...
And our client? If we're planning to play police all of a sudden, we're gonna need something...
No worries there. It's a human rights group we've worked with. They were conducting their own trafficking investigation.
Understood. You can...
Roger that.
Hey, Kev. You have anything on that? Didn't seem like your garden variety high frequency.
It's not. It's a samurai sword. The real deal. 16th century make. Handed down in his family ever since. Sam had it recast as a high-frequency blade. Doesn't say by who.
Is this something I need to worry about?
Maybe. You know the basics of sword making, right? The harder the metal, the better it cuts, but also the more brittle it is. So a sword's gotta be sturdy, but also just pliable enough to absorb shock without breaking. Walking that line, striking that balance, that's what makes sword crafting an art. Japanese swords fuse different types of iron, each with different amounts of carbon. Different levels of flexibility, in other words. So the blade can be tough and razor sharp.
And that gets multiplied when the sword gets the HF treatment?
Yeah. Basically, the high-frequency upgrade sets the blade vibrating really, really fast, right? That vibration acts on the electron shells of atoms in the sword and the local electromagnetic field. When the EMF achieves resonance, the blade's bonding is strengthened. At a quantum level, it's like the entire sword is made up of the exact same particle type. It also disrupts any atoms it comes into contact with. Say, those that make up the target. Their electron clouds shrink from exposure to quantum decoherence at the Planck scale. In other words, it electrically severs the bonds that keep the target's atoms together.
You lost me around the EMF part.
And that's the dumbed-down explanation. To be honest, even I don't understand all the details. Point is, an HF upgrade is like an amplifier. It multiplies what's already there. So Sam's badass blade might give him the edge. I mean, you know what I mean.
The original sword was really that good?
Sounds like it. Says here it's a Murasama blade.
Murasama. Sounds familiar.
One of the top 10 best-known sword makers worldwide, easy. In Japan, he is legendary. They say his swords thirst for blood, that they choose who will wield them, you know, that sort of thing.
Ooh, now I really am scared.
I know, right?
Where the hell did Desperado get all these cyborgs?
Hard to say. They're not as rare as they once were, but mostly career military who got hurt on the battlefield. Getting their arms or legs back lets them keep, but most able-bodied soldiers are still reluctant to sacrifice their own healthy body. Plus, the surgery is highly specialized. Unless insurance is footing the bill, most guys couldn't afford enhancements even if they want.
Maverick's got some cyborgs. What's their story?
Mostly. I heard a few saved. There is this one crazy blonde guy, though. I heard he asked for a...
The Patriots didn't leave me much of a body to begin. I just had Herr Doctor finish what they started.
You know I'm just giving you shit, man. Anyway, yeah. Looking at the numbers, cyborg soldiers are still not really surprising when only contractors in developed third world soldiers get hurt out on the field, and they can't work as a merc anymore. Most times, they can't really...
Well, Desperado's up to something, because cyborgs are definitely...
I've heard of some PMCs covering the cost of the surgery. The mercs get their career back, sure, but... The PMCs aren't exactly... Any cyborg breaks his contract early would probably be in debt for the rest of his...
You think that's Desperado?
I can't prove it, but sure as hell wouldn't surprise me.
So what kind of deal does Maverick offer its...
Oh yeah, I forgot you're full-time too. You never...
Nope. Boris invited me on board the first time we talked about it. We've known each other since Area 50. Didn't have any reason to turn him down, so yeah. Never really considered the contract route.
Right. Well... It's actually pretty rare for guys on the ground like you to be full. After all, it's never the same job twice in this business. Each mission has its own requirements. Force size, skill. So generally, we contract out on a per-mission basis. Or a lot of U.S. companies are doing it that way lately. Not just besides, a good contractor can earn more than most regular full-time employees.
And if they want to quit, can they get out of their
Yep. Of course, just up and quitting right in the middle of a mission would cause problems. Just like any other job, you know? We'd want some notice. To settle on a new end date. Hold up. You're not thinking of...
You still busy with all that other...
You know me, man. Kev of all... Briefing prep, arms procurement, client negotiation. Lately, though, I've been focusing more on sales and on-site coordination. Oh, and advise...
Never sleep, do you?
Things have been better since Courtney...
You still busy with all...
You know me. Briefing... Lately...
Never... So who actually owns this?
On the book?
So all...
It does.
How do you...
The Caspian, not since...
But that...
Ma, the South...
So...
Da, Edison, perhaps...
And that...
And... Perhaps...
Yeah, let me get...
There we... Besides...
Right.
Da.
Right. You need to save?
Did you catch on?
Yeah, I was monitoring the whole time. I've seen his file, plenty of photos, but... I guess I expected some...
Didn't seem too friendly to me.
No, I mean, you hear terrorist, you think of some cold calculator. Dolzaev looks more like some guy off the street.
Cold calculating professional types don't usually bother with terrorism.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't make what they do any easier. What about Miss Trawl?
Well, she's certainly attractive. Probably an artificial face, though. I'm guessing most of her is... So Miss Trawl's from... Have you ever been?
No.
Once, for a consulting job. Pretty short trip.
I hear it's pretty safe there now, compared to how things were at the start of this.
Yeah, I was able to slip a little sightseeing in. Pretty nice spot for a vacation. Kind of hot, though. 80% of it's the Saharan desert, and wow, it was just like you'd imagine. So much sand. You could easily imagine camel caravans trekking.
Yeah? I thought only a sixth of the Sahara was sandy like.
But once you reach the Mediterranean coast, it's a totally different. All these white-walled buildings framed against intense blue sea.
Were you in Algiers? I know that the capital looks a lot like.
Yep. The local cuisine's totally French-influenced. I'll never forget this one lunch. Oh, there were a bunch of sweet shops in town, too. High quality.
Sounds like you ate your way across.
Well, food's an important part of local culture, you know. I didn't expect to see Mediterranean fish and African cuisine, but it was all. They'd fry up small fish whole, then drizzle them with lemon juice. I could have eaten that all day.
Sounds like a lot of calories.
I tried to stay active, you know.
Hey, did you know my visual analyzers can tell me how much someone weighs?
Yeah, I'll have to talk with Doc about disabling that one. Raiden, what you said before about your sword...
Glad to hear you say that.
You mentioned it was part of some
Yeah. I didn't grow up using a sword. I fell into it by After that, I decided to train with the HF blade. I really got into it. Started learning more and more about ancient Japan and I tore through stacks of books, movies, anything...
Somehow hard to imagine you settling in with a big bucket of...
What? A cyborg can't have hobbies? I'll have you know I'm actually a huge...
Okay, so that's where you picked up this Sword of Justice Creed?
Yeah. Most of it from a single master named Munenori Yagyu. He founded a school of swordsmanship on the idea that violence can be necessary for the greater good. He called it Katsujinken, the life-giving sword. Yagyu believed power isn't evil in itself. It's how it's applied that matters. As time went on, Katsujinken incorporated deterrence. It took on the meaning of winning without fighting. Or as I like to say, one sword keeps another in the sheath. That's from George Herbert. He was an English priest, 17th century, almost the same era as Yagyu.
Huh. It's a universal idea, I guess.
You could frame the same message as use of a necessary evil, but I think it's a good mindset for any PMC.
At least as long as there's fighting that requires us in the first...
Which doesn't seem likely to change.
You know, I have to hand it to you guys. Cyborgs are just so much power.
It's not all great.
No?
Well, things have improved a lot in the past few... But back when I was modded for the first time, keeping artificial blood free of impurities was a huge hassle. Artificial muscles need a constant flow of oxygen from a blood source. Just like we all had to undergo routine dialysis.
Sounds rough.
Used to be even worse back when Dr. Clark was still experimenting. Compared to that, I had it pretty...
It wasn't until recently that you could eat and drink like normal people.
That's right. We generally use glucose-based nutrient packs to keep the brain... Whatever we eat's broken down by nanomachines. And we have taste sensors. It's not exactly like it was before. The difference is, I can turn those sensors off if I don't need them. That's been surprisingly...
So cyborgs can live pretty much normal life?
Well... Getting there. We still need fuel cells and nutrition packs, not to mention regular maintenance. It's a lot of dough. Of course, another big problem's how other people look at you.
How do you mean?
There was a time when I wore artificial skin. Tried to look as close to normal. I've still got some now, on my face. The tech at the time wasn't great. You still looked pretty unnatural. Maybe you could fool someone from far away, but up close, even a baby going out shopping or whatever, you could feel how... I tried to find something to do other than fight. But looking like I did got me 2 strikes pretty much as soon as I walked through the door.
That sounds terrible.
Well, you appreciated it when people were honest about it. Things are getting better these days, though. Artificial skin's improved a lot. And you don't get so many stares now that the general public...
Maybe I should look into the cyborg thing, huh? I could eat whatever I want when...
Probably cheaper just getting lipo, Courtney.
Jerk.
Courtney, there's something... It's how I replenish my electrolytes. I'm basically...
Oh, I don't really see any better options. And if we fail here, it's not only bad for us, but for our clients.
Yeah.
Besides, it's like you say. No one's forcing them to be here. They chose to...
Yeah.
I won't lie. I don't feel great, but in the scheme of things, yes.
Thanks. I guess it's never black...
No. Do you and Kevin work a lot together, right?
Well, Maverick's not that big. Unless you're a short-term contractor, you tend to work with the same guy. Last job we were on together, I was hired by the Carabinieri to track down 3 Albanian mafia. It wasn't easy. All 3 of them had cybernetic. Without Kev, I could have been in serious trouble.
He was with an NGO before Maverick, I think. Handling disarmament.
Yeah. He and Boris met while working together to resolve a conflict, and after they hit it off. So when Boris gave him a job opportunity, he took it.
I kind of wonder why. We're pretty much the opposite of a disarmament out.
3 things are needed after a conflict. Disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. Even if the UN taps the group that caused the conflict for post-war...
That, or they only disarm the useless parts of their force. The ones with outdated weapons.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they can hide their standing force, the one with all the up-to-date weaponry. Afghanistan saw a lot of that, since the wars were all waged by rival military... Anyway, Kev saw that happening on a daily basis, and then along comes Boris. Kev had to think it over for a while, sure.
PMCs are going to need more people like him. And me too, I guess. You know, civilian viewpoints.
Couldn't agree more.
What's up? No? Did you need anything?
No, just wanted to hear.
Oh. What's up? Okay, save complete. Don't let your...
I was wondering when you'd come, Jack the Ripper.
No one calls me that anymore. Dolzaev, where is he?
I can show you a better time than that crusty old bear.
You're in charge here?
I am Mistral, the cold wind of France. And you, your reputation precedes you. Liberian, but white as snow. A natural-born killer, even as a child.
That was a long time ago.
I was born in Algeria myself, you know? I'm only half French.
And?
We had our own civil war in the 90s. So you see? Cut from the same cloth, you and I.
You don't know me.
I lost my whole family. Everything. But I butchered those fuckers. My family's killers. That's when I realized I am a killer too. And a good one at that. I slaughtered dozens in Iraq, in Afghanistan. I'd found my calling.
Proud of that, are you?
What happened, happened. To be honest, I found it quite dull. My enemies fell like domino, one after another. Not once did I feel threatened. I was adrift, without challenge, without purpose. At times, I even envied my prey. At least they had a cause to die for. And then, I met him.
Who?
And I knew what I had been missing. His ideals gave my life meaning. Ideals, Jack. What are yours?
I protect the weak.
Still? So naive.
And if I must kill to protect them, then so be it.
It seems we have less in common than I thought.
I'll take that as a compliment.
If you would kill for your ideals, then surely you are ready to die for them.
Mistro, report! Your vitals are dropping.
I lost. So this is how they felt.
What?
Dying. For a cause.
Wait. No. Hold on.
I am sorry. He was too much.
I do not need apology. I need you alive.
But I know you will never fall.
What is this talk about?
Je t'aime. De tout mon corps.
Je t'aime. Mister, you'll never...
She's not talking to you, idiot.
You killed her! You vile nuts! Murderer!
That's rich coming from you. It's over, Dosaev. Surrender. Translation?
Why would I surrender? We are exactly where I want.
Shit.
Built with Russian money to make Russian money. It is no plan for Abkhaz. It is their prison. But now, they will be free!
Damn! Crazy son of a bitch!
Raiden? Raiden, what happened?
Bastard blew himself up!
I see. Time to get you out of there. We're sending a helicopter. Secure an LZ.
Understood.
So you got some kind of disguise lined up, right?
Yep, all set.
Hope so. You'd be a little conspicuous just walking the streets.
Relax, Kev. I'll blend right in.
Yeah. Well, Just get into the sewer system ASAP. Hopefully anyone who notices you will just mind their own business. You sure you want the K9000 there along for this one?
I had the good doctor make some adjustments along with the repairs. Remote piloting and AI wiping have been disabled. So yeah, I say let's throw him a bone.
Wordplay. My exoskeleton resembles a canine. Canines enjoy bones. Amusing on 2 levels.
Let's go.
¿Quién es ese güey? ¿Un mariachi? ¿No? ¿Un cyborg? Ese sombrero. ¿Qué?
Adiós, amigos.
¿Viste? Qué raro, ¿eh? Hay que hacer que no lo vimos. Vámonos ya.
It's right. I'm in the sewer system.